Well, welcome back to another week of VIP Chats, Virginia Insider Politics. We are thrilled to be back with you again. I'm Victoria Cobb, president of the Family Foundation, still in my home under lockdown, slightly lifted restrictions, but as you all know, most of us are still working from our homes. And we're still watching our governor constantly confuse Virginians, and it is what it is. Every couple of days, it seems we have a different decision, different restrictions. Some restrictions lifted, some added. Are we doing it by region or state or locality? But nevertheless, this is where we are, and so we'll make the best of it. And we're glad that you all are here. So what I am thrilled to be able to do is just do a few announcements today. By way of announcements, we have upcoming a very exciting simulcast I wanted to make sure that you guys know about, and that is on June 1st. We're going to be highlighting really how do we redeem this crisis? What are the good things coming out of this crisis? And by that I mean we actually find that this moment that we're in is revealing the truth of conservative principles. We actually believe that in this moment, we're seeing why socialism would be a disaster. We're seeing why a society needs to value life before we get to questions of what if we run out of ventilators and how do we make decisions about end of life. We're seeing that the Family Foundation has always said this, and many conservatives have said this, but ultimately the most important institution are our families. Long before we get to government, long before we get to schools and other institutions that play vital roles, it comes down to the family. And bottom line is, we're seeing that has never been more important than in this moment. And so we've got some fantastic speakers to join us for this simulcast. It's going to be June 1st, starting at 1 p.m. And we've got Jim Daly from Focus on the Family. We've got John Stonestreet from the Colson Center. We're announcing, I think, later today, so I'll give you the preview. Stella Morbido will be with us. She is a writer for the Federalist, but she's going to be the one that focuses on socialism. And again, also not yet announced, but since you guys are our private audience here, I'll tell you, we're also excited. We're going to have someone from Samaritan's Purse coming on to talk about religious freedom and how they, out of their faith, have been serving in the heart of New York City and yet simultaneously being called bigots, and the city criticizing the work that they're doing because they have orthodox views on marriage. So this is going to be a fantastic opportunity. You can already get that on our website at familyfoundation.org. You do need to sign up, but it's going to be just an amazing simulcast June 1st. So that's that big announcement. The other thing we're preparing for at the Family Foundation is our summer. We get excited about our summer interns, and we also get excited about the EQUIP program that we run. EQUIP is our Worldview Academy program for college students and very end of high school kids headed off to college. Rising freshmen in college are also welcome. And it's every Wednesday. Kids are a part of this class where we bring in professors from mostly Virginia schools, Liberty, UVA, all sorts of folks. And these professors come and we hit different worldview topics every week. And it's just incredibly valuable for grounding students. So if you have a student in your life, you want to get them a part of this. This is an amazing opportunity. We do it at our headquarters, but this year, as you know, until June 10th, we can't have large gatherings. And so we are actually doing virtual. The first 2 weeks of June, we'll begin the program and we'll begin it online. And because of that unique opportunity this year, we're actually going to make those first 2 weeks free, available to anyone. So these students can kind of sneak preview the program, which I think you'll find is outstanding for those first 2 weeks to decide if they want to be a part of it in person the rest of the summer as part of our Worldview program. So EQUIP, if you don't know about this, it's also available on our website. Wanted to make sure that I made that announcement because we are gearing up and people are starting to register and getting ready for an exciting summer. We already have some awesome speakers lined up. And because the first week or two is virtual, we're able to get a speaker or two that we wouldn't ordinarily be able to get in person. So we're getting them virtually, national speakers that I think you'll find really wonderful for your students. But we know that many, many students are headed off to college. We know that they often are not grounded deep enough in their faith to be challenged by liberal professors. And so we find that so many folks either walk away from their faith or they don't know how to connect their faith and the ideology that they're getting kind of shoved at them in the college classroom, and that's the goal of Equip. So those are my announcements for today. And with that, I'm really excited for today's discussion. I want to leave the bulk of the time with that. Today, we are thrilled to have with us Cheri Britt and Jim Davids are going to join our Director of Legislative Affairs, Todd Gackey, back to chat with them. But essentially, Cheri Britt, I've shared with you, is someone who was one of the first, I would call it, sort of victims of this quarantine situation where government decides who's essential and who's not. And our government decided that the abortion center is essential, but decided that Cheri Britt's pro-life ministry, her amazing work that she does, is non-essential. And so I'm going to stop telling the story and turn it over to, if Todd will come on screen, and Jim Davids and Cheri, and I will leave it to you guys.
Hello, Todd.
Hello, Jim. Good. There you are. Hey, we appreciate y'all coming online.
We are on a field trip today, and let me show you a little bit. First of all, let me introduce you to Cheri Britt.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
We are standing in front of the Planned Parenthood facility over here on Newtown Road in Virginia Beach. Here's Newtown Road. Obviously, a lot of the noise is from the traffic that comes by. But it was at this precise location,
This spot, I was standing
this spot, where Cheri received a ticket, which is going to be a subject of this particular broadcast. So let me walk back with Cheri to our the home. We'll show you the mobile home, which is the ministry that Cheri does, and Cheri can kind of introduce herself a little bit while we walk, and I can also tell you a little bit about her ministry. All right, ready, Cheri?
Yeah. Just a little short 50-step walk back to the mobile. We actually parked the ultrasound bus on public right-of-way. We say that God was in this ministry all the way to even where we could park the bus. Because how do you find a strip of land between Norfolk and Virginia Beach that fits in a 30-foot ultrasound bus? So that worked out really well. And so we started the ministry in 2015. We had been sidewalk counseling with a group of friends. And that's what we call someone who just stands near the abortion facility and hands out information and points women in directions they can go to make a life choice for their child.
Let me interrupt just a minute. I want to show you the sign that we have. Hopefully you can see that adequately, because that's going to be important. You see that they give away free pregnancy tests, free ultrasound, and there's also a sign that's normally here that talks about diapers and baby food and other things, which Hope for Life, Cheri's ministry, gives away for free. That's important for the case too, which we'll talk about shortly. Let me also show you the bus in the background. And we'll go inside the bus, introduce you to some people.
I think this is great. In our past webinars, Jim, we've had the settings where, you know, our guest is just sitting at a table or standing. And for those that are on the webinar are probably more familiar with brick and mortar pregnancy resource centers. So I think this is a real treat for them to see a new and inventive way to be able to minister to women and to mothers.
Well, this is, I think my favorite part of schools was always field trips. And that's what we have here today is a field trip. Meet Misty.
Hello.
Hello, Misty.
Misty is a stenographer.
Okay.
Let me just show you around. Obviously, here's where the bus is driven. This particular area right here is the counseling center.
Okay.
So when they get somebody interested, and literally what they'll do is talk to them at the entrance of the Planned Parenthood facility, and Cheri will describe that a little bit to you about the day in question. But they take them back here to counsel them a little bit. And if they're then willing and give consent, they'll come back here and do a sonogram. That's what Misty does. Misty runs the sonogram machine. And again, the whole purpose is to show, you know, how far along they are in terms of their pregnancy, as well as that, obviously there's life.
Yes.
And they ought to think about that. All right, now let me set this up over here. Cheri, why don't you have a seat, and I'll let you and Todd kind of take it from there until you guys are ready for the for discussing the law. Then I'll take over.
There we go.
Right,
Cheri, it's great to have you on with us. We really do appreciate you taking time out of your day to share with us about your ministry. I guess I'll just kind of start off with that. Can you just tell us, how did you get involved in this ministry?
Well, there were a handful of us that were sidewalk counseling. At that particular time in 2009, there were 4 abortion clinics. One is closed. And we saw a real need to meet the women where they were at. And of course, we were at the abortion facilities. It was hard to get a scheduled appointment for someone to get into a brick and mortar facility. So that was one of the biggest challenges that we faced, was being able to help them right then and there. And so what had happened was, God bless the Knights of Columbus, they had given me an iPad to sidewalk counsel with. And a lady in Northern Virginia had heard about the iPad and had met me over at the other abortion facility near Rosemont. And she began to tell me that she had a mobile ultrasound truck in Northern Virginia. And I was like, "You do what?" And she just told me, yeah, she said, we take the mobile to the abortion facilities and have it parked right there, and encourage the women to come on the ultrasound mobile and see their little baby. And so I traveled up to Northern Virginia and talked with her, toured her ultrasound facility. And on the way back on Highway 10, there sat the first ultrasound mobile that we had purchased and refurbished into it. This particular bus is the one that we just got the first of the year. So we're actually running 2 now. So there's quite a handful of it. It's really not just me and my ministry. I have a co-director, Luantha, and we have a board of directors. So it really takes all the churches to be able to pull this type of organization and ministry off. So. Okay.
So the equipment that you use, is this being donated, or are you raising funds? Is all of that purchased? How did you come into possession of all of that?
Well, it was a slow, humble start. And, it does take a lot of funds to do this. This is a 2013, really state-of-the-art bus that we have now. The other one we have is a wonderful, and that particular bus was used to save 500 children. So now we're working on having one at each one of the abortion facilities. So we work, yes, that's another thing that's tirelessly done, is to raise funds to have these buses running. Yeah. We might have chunked to put 2 on the road. Yeah.
Just imagining the lives of so many people that you're impacting. Is there any memorable moments that, aside from what we'll discuss in a little while, but are there any, positive or memorable moments that you have that you're able to share?
There's so many. There's about 10 different circumstances and reasons girls feel like they can't carry their baby to term. So it's just really beautiful in all these cases that these women take that leap of faith and trust us to help them solve their problems. I guess the most ones that come to mind are the ones that are homeless, jobless, and carless, and maybe even have a couple other children, and they choose life for their baby. And we work with them. We really help them. We had a girl come last week that for diapers. We're endless supply of help to them. We call ourselves no hassle help. Let us know what you need, and we're going to help you. And she had 3 boys, and she was homeless, jobless, and carless. And she chose life, and it turned out that was her little girl. And she said, "I can't believe I was going to kill my little girl." But do you know, now, not even a year later, she has a very nice vehicle, she's working, and she has her own place. So, just working with these women and getting them up and going and on their feet is just really a beautiful thing. Misty worked with one today, a young, sweet little girl that just didn't even know how to get her insurance going. She's 25 weeks pregnant. So
we sit with them on the bus, and it was painful. It was like almost 2 hours long. And we sat and called the social services, and I sit down with them because they don't have patience for it. And we just sit down and go, "All right, let's do it." And she kept trying to get aggravated. I'm like, "It's okay, we're going to do this," even though it was very painful to do. And we did it for her.
So she's got her application so she can get insurance.
Yeah, and my memory for today was, we set up nurseries for women. Between 2018, 2019, and to date, we've supplied what I call our little nursery set, which includes bed, stroller, baby seats, clothes for a year, set up diapers. So one of these moms came to get hers today, and she pulled up her shirt, and there was her 36-week belly of her baby, and just patting it. And I thought, oh, there's my moment for today. To see her all happy that she had chose life and ready for her little one now.
So what is the process in terms of how you're caring for them? What is the intake and all of that? How does that? Can you kind of walk us through that and how that works?
Well, of course, we meet them at the driveway of the abortion facility. We have what we call a ministry packet. We hand them out, and in that packet has a coupon for free ultrasound and pregnancy test. Okay. So, you can imagine we don't get to have a very long conversation on Newtown Road. So our goal is to get them down on the mobile bus and talk to them about what, we'll come right out and say, why do you feel you can't carry your baby to term? What is the circumstance? So, of course, we're under a pregnancy umbrella. We serve with NIFLA, which is a pregnancy group. And so we use all of their paperwork and their guidelines. Of course, we're insurance poor, as you can imagine, with trucks on the road and malpractice insurance. And the funny thing about that is in the beginning, we were deciding, should we just be a fun photo type shop here, or should we go, regular medical? And we decided, because we were battling the largest abortion facility in the state of Virginia, we should cross every T and dot every I. So we follow all the guidelines of a regular brick and mortar pregnancy center. But we're not so much in a box as they are, because we will give our moms ride to hospitals, doctors, help them with that kind of stuff. We deliver things, because a lot of these ladies don't even have cars to start up with. So we want to make sure that their babies' bottoms are dry. So we'll deliver the diapers and help them as much as we can. And girls really don't take advantage of us. I mean, they, are really thankful, loving, and caring. And it's a beautiful way it all comes together.
Okay. What is the reception when you're bringing them to a mobile pregnancy resource center? It's got to be unusual, maybe, to some, just in terms of when you're reaching out to them. What are their thoughts? Do they have any initial comments?
Well, it's a leap of faith for them, and we tell them, give us a chance, take a leap of faith. One of the big challenges that we find is Planned Parenthood. This is the thing about choice. It's not about choice. They are not giving these women a choice to choose life or to choose abortion. It's all about, yes, you have to have an abortion. And I've said this over and over again. We see the women in tears coming out of this building. And if they cared about these women inside, they would tell them, if you don't want to have an abortion, you don't have to have an abortion, but they don't. So because they tell them on the phone, don't talk to those people out there, they're mean protesters, they're against you, which we're not. We're not a protester group. We're a support group. We're here to help you. Really, God has solved all range of situations for people. It's just amazing what he will do. The baby's not coming tomorrow. Most of them are a couple months pregnant. And, they've got 8 months to work out their situation and give us a chance to help them. So yeah, they're a little leery, but it was like we were just talking today. Once they get on the bus, their wall starts coming down, and they start to understand that, we're women just helping women and supporting women. Yeah. And we need men too. Prayer warrior men out here.
Okay. That's good information there. What has your ministry been like operating under this COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, we before we would do what we call house calls and go in and sit with the girl on the couch and talk to her. So we're not doing that. If we want to solve a situation like today with Misty, we brought the girl to the mobile and talked to her. We use, of course, face masks. People have been very generous in making us face masks. So most of the time there are face masks on, and we're kind of an outdoor ministry anyways. The girls are coming here and they're getting things from us outside, and so when we make deliveries, we just don't go in, and we sanitize and do all the things we should be doing.
Okay. I want to kind of start moving a little bit into sort of the legal stuff, but you mentioned something about, the differences between the brick and mortar pregnancy resource centers and then yours. What are some of the rules, some of the laws or regulations that are going to differ between the two that you have to be more aware of?
You know, I can't really think of any in the way that we differ, because we fall under a regular umbrella that a brick and mortar would fall under. But we're just on wheels is all. And what we do is we really, the difference in like a brick and mortar, our girls go find them. And here we come to where the girls are, walking through the doors of the abortion clinics. Yeah. I think that's just about the only difference. When you say we just meet them here.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Jim, I think this might be a good, this has been a great background information on your ministry. I'd like to turn towards what happened now. If you could share about the citation and what allegedly happened.
I will. Thank you. Matter of fact, I'm going to move over a little bit. Well, that's one way to do it. I was going to move a little closer, violate safe spacing requirements a little bit more. As you can see, we're scofflaws here. There's about a foot between me and a foot between Misty. We are, yes, indoors, kind of. The incident in question occurred on April 1. So this was fairly shortly, maybe a week or so after Governor Northam had issued Executive Order 55. And obviously it followed another string of executive orders, but this was a major one because in section 1 of Executive Order 55, it was the directive from the governor that people should stay at home. Previously, they talked about essential and non-essential businesses, but this is the one, stay at home. We have to tackle this out. It went into some other things which were really kind of irrelevant, but this was a stay-at-home initiative. Well, anyway, April 1st, Cheri was outside of the Planned Parenthood facility with a couple other people that are sidewalk counselors, and a police officer arrived from Virginia Beach. And the police officer said that he had received a call from Planned Parenthood that there were individuals outside by the entrance who were violating the governor's executive order. And so the police officer came and spoke with them. And after hearing that, look, Cheri was saying, this is my job. This is what I do, all right? And we're outside, we're not inside, right? So a lot of rules that we're applying inside don't really pertain to outside, and we're all at least 6 feet away from each other. So we're all practicing good community public health as much as we can over here. Well, the officer said, I won't ticket anybody now, but if you're still here when I come back this afternoon, because the first conversation was in the morning, I'm going to give you a citation. Well, of the 3 people that he discussed this with, and we do have video of these discussions, during this, 2 of the 3 left, but Cheri remained. And Cheri remained because she still has a mission. She still has a job. This is her job, is to meet people and invite them over to have a free sonogram, invite them for a free pregnancy test, as well as the other services that this fine organization, which is Hope 4, numeral 4 Life, www.hope4life.com. That's the email address. You'll see another wonderful picture of this lovely mobile office. So Cheri remained, and she got this ticket, the citation from the police officer. And the police officer cited the statute giving the governor the executive authority that he's been using during this pandemic. And in addition to that, specifically said that Cheri had violated Executive Order 55. And she was summoned to court for a trial on June the 18th. So we have not yet had the trial. But then Cheri was kind enough to call and get in connection with the Family Foundation. And this is, it's all providential. People on this webinar will enjoy to see God's providence and his providential hand working in this, because the board of directors over the past year has been considering an additional mission for Family Foundation. in addition to doing the fine legislative work that you and your staff have been doing for years, representing us in the General Assembly, the board of directors said given the climate that we're in right now, there's got to be more that we can do. And since some on the left have been so successful in court for all these years, we have to take some of their strategy and we've got to implement that for ourselves. So literally during the last year, we've been looking to set up a new law firm, a law center. And we decided to organize that, and the board has approved that. And it was ready to be announced on July 1st. And here the Lord is giving us our first client, Cheri, before we're even ready to launch the law center. It shows you how much we're needed, I guess. I guess the Lord couldn't even wait for us to get public before giving us our first client. So Cheri's been a delight to work with. I have finished off a 4-page letter over to the city, basically asking him to drop the lawsuit. Because for 2 reasons primarily. If you look at Executive Order 55, the first paragraph, which is a stay-at-home paragraph, there's no criminal sanctions for that. In other words, at the end of the executive order, if you carefully read it, at the end of the executive order, Governor Northam identified which pieces of the executive orders were subject to criminal sanctions. And criminal sanctions could be significant. It's a class 1 misdemeanor, which carries with it up to a year in jail and up to I think it's a $5,000 fine. So significant criminal penalties, again, for standing on a public sidewalk trying to communicate with young ladies who are pregnant about, look, there's an alternative to killing your baby. So, but the stay-at-home provision, which is the most applicable one for Cheri's situation, carries no criminal penalties. Well, why are we getting a ticket if there's no criminal penalties? Why should we even have it? Are we just going to go in there and say hello to the judge, and so the judge can say, be careful, be safe and healthy? I mean, it seems to be a waste of everybody's time, including the police officers and any attorney that shows up for the city. So that's one aspect that we found while investigating this thing. And the second aspect is in paragraph 7. Paragraph 7 says that this executive order does not apply to medical facilities. Well, you saw the sonogram room earlier. What is this if it's not a medical facility? In addition, there's no application of this executive order to charitable organizations. Well, giving out diapers and food for free, counseling for free, is that not charitable? And so, therefore, I think we've got a very good case that, first of all, there are no criminal penalties. It's simply violating the stay-at-home order. And secondly, we're subject to these 2 exemptions, both the medical facility as well as the charitable provision. So you look at the whole thing, and that's why I wrote to the city's attorney and said, look, in light of all this, we think you ought to dismiss this case, and so therefore a court appearance would not be necessary. We have not yet received a response from the city. We're looking forward to a response, and we're very hopeful that it will be a favorable response.
That's a great synopsis of that whole incident. I'm just want to ask you a follow-up question. What is sort of is there a precedent that is at risk here if it's not a favorable outcome? What is legally, what should we be concerned about with a case like this?
If the city decides not to drop the case, which it may, we think that Cheri will be a fine witness and will make a favorable impression about the judge, and the arguments I just raised will also receive reception, a good reception, I think, by the judge. If the judge does not accept that, we will also be prepared at that time to fully attack the executive order on its constitutionality, because what the police officer did is the police officer violated Cheri's rights to free exercise of religion. religion motivates what she does. And she is acting out her religion by doing the sidewalk counseling and doing all the services that she has over here. In addition to that, we potentially have a violation of the freedom of assembly, the freedom of speech. And so therefore, there are multiple constitutional attacks that we will raise if the judge does not simply dismiss the case. If the district judge still rules against us, that's fine. We've set a record. We go up to the Virginia Beach Circuit Court and we start on over. And if we lose there, we're going up to Supreme Court, and it's we feel strongly about this.
Yeah.
These are unusual times, Todd, right? But even in the unusual times, the Constitution is not to be violated. There is no pandemic exception written anywhere by the founders for the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, Cheri, I mean, how do you feel about all of this, kind of being in the middle of this situation here? You know, what were your thoughts when all of this was happening?
Well, this is not the first time Planned Parenthood has called the police on me. So they haven't chased me off in 9 years.
Yeah.
And I might have been low the first day or two till I figured out if they were going to haul me away for sure, but pretty much haven't missed a beat yet. You know, we're going to trust God and keep serving these women and trying to save them and their little babies.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pivot to hopefully some questions. And participants on the webinar were allowed to ask some questions, and I see a couple here. And the first one is really dealing more about the supplies, the items that you could use, you know, during this pandemic. Are there certain items that you could really use to be able to provide the families? You know, is there a particular, you know, diaper size? Is there specific needs that you have that those on this webinar should be aware of?
Well, we are always in need of diapers. I did a little pretty rough count for April. We handed out 3,200 diapers. People just come by here and get packs of diapers. It was an amazing, beautiful time through April to be able to serve these women and their families. So we're always in need really of all sorts of supplies. When we set up a woman, these women are usually in need of everything from pacifiers to cribs. So, you know, anybody that has anything, we would love to have it and glad to have it. We just continue to pass on all that supplies people need. Okay.
Yeah, our family is involved in foster care. So we foster some children, and I know that many of the families that we are friends with, they will also take in children who have some medical challenges. Are there any specific needs like that you come across where maybe a child has specific medical challenges that there are supplies that they could use?
I can't think of any. We haven't really had any cases like that of late.
Okay. What are some specific ways we can be praying for you and your ministry, your team? For those that are on the webinar, how can we be praying for you?
Well, wisdom and guidance at the driveways, that the Holy Spirit would just take over us and give us the words to say that each particular woman needed to hear in her circumstances. We love to pray for the workers and the abortionists to come to know Jesus. I can't imagine really what kind of a turmoil that their heart and soul is in to have to perform that kind of work. So definitely that, and that God would send more volunteers for us. It takes quite a lot of people to be able to have 2 mobiles out and a couple people handing out information, and always need prayer warriors at the driveways so that God would lead more people to be involved in this ministry. That would be a real blessing.
Okay. Well, I'll give, before I kind of close up, I just want to give you a chance, if you or Jim, if there's anything that we haven't discussed or been asked, if you'd like to kind of finalize and give some final thoughts, you're more than welcome to.
The one thing that I've learned is first of all, I did not know that this mobile office and medical facility existed prior to this time. I mean, I've been on occasion Right to Life Sunday. I've been outside and lined up and down Newtown Road with dozens, if not hundreds, of other people. But I never knew that this effective ministry existed. And this is a very efficient, well-run, cost-effective organization with people with great hearts. Mm-hmm. And so again, for more information, www.hope4life.com. And in terms of the Law Center for the Family Foundation, I guess even before our July 1st rollout, we are open for business. The name of the Law Center is the Founding Freedoms Law Center. Founding Freedoms Law Center. The website is currently being built, so it's not yet ready. Hopefully it'll be ready by July 1st. But certainly we're accepting clients and telephone calls and willing to work with people throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. And all you have to do is really contact Family Foundation, and they would be more than happy to pass along the client contact either to me or to your colleague, who is an incredibly young and efficient and wonderful attorney, Josh Hessler. And so it's Josh and I that are going to be manning the Law Center in its infancy, and hopefully with its growing effectiveness, it will also grow.
One final question, and you had mentioned about bringing some more people in to help volunteer. Just for those that would be interested, is there some training? How can they get trained? And what other kind of volunteer opportunities are there that people can get plugged into in your ministry?
Well, if they go to the website, they can send an email to us, and we had a training scheduled, which due to the pandemic, we've not been able to hold that, but we'll reschedule that and have a date. And of course, in the meantime, come on out to the sidewalk and watch what we do, or if you would like to join us one day on the mobile, and we'd like to keep just basically an ultrasound tech and a second person for that ministry, but we need more people coming out and helping on the mobile as well. And volunteering, we have a huge clothing closet that we take care of, and there's always washing, sorting, and getting little stains out that needs to be done if anyone has a heart to help with that. We need baby blankets made, booties made, hats made. There's a lot of things that people can do, from the young to the older, can help with this ministry, because we're here to love and help and support these women when they're in a crisis.
Mm-hmm. And for those organizations that may want to partner with you, are there certain organizations that you partner with? How can they get in touch with you?
Again, I would say go to the website and you can send an email. We do partner with different organizations. One of the really wonderful ones is the Hampton Roads Diaper Bank. So if anyone is looking to help support any groups now through that, I'm sure they're in need. Diapers have been a real scarce thing out on the stores now.
Okay. Well, I think that I'm looking at the questions from those on the webinar. I think that those are some great questions, and I just want to say that we are so thankful for your team, your organization, and the great ministry that you have, that you are impacting so many lives being changed. And it's just a selfless calling that you have. And we are so thankful that you and your volunteers are there on the front lines tackling this very important issue. We're all made in the image of God, and you are just there to protect that. And we are just so thankful. We're going to be praying for you and your ministry, and please keep us posted on what your organization is doing, and certainly we will be in touch with Jim on the progress of this legal challenge as well. So we want to say thank you, and with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Victoria to wrap us up.
Wonderful to have everyone today, and just to do some concluding comments and give you a preview of next week. So in conclusion, just want to remind you about the simulcast that I mentioned, June 1st. You can get all that information on the website at familyfoundation.org. And you do want to go ahead and register for that so we can connect you to how you'll be able to view that. But again, we're looking forward to Jim Daly and Stone Street and so many others contributing to that event. And then the other thing is next week's VIP chat. We are very excited. We've had a few state elected officials on, Senator Newman, Delegate LaRock, Delegate Byron. We've had some other folks who are experts in their area. We talked about the Electoral College and some other things. But what we haven't had on yet is one of our federal representatives. So next week will be Ben Cline, Congressman Ben Cline. We've known and loved him at the Family Foundation for a long time because he was a delegate in our House of Delegates first, and he was actually the chairman of our conservative caucus. And so he has been a friend to our organization and now represents many of us that are in the rural area of Virginia, not so much where I live, but great representative up in Congress. And it feels like right now is a great time to say, what in the world's going on federally? What do we have going on in Congress? Let's get an update from him on stimulus package debates and all the things Nancy Pelosi keeps trying to jam into our economic recovery plans. So be back with us next week. We'll send out a registration link again, and we'll look forward to having you at this time next week. Thanks so much for joining us today.